Welcome to Monday, February 16th, 2026. After a catastrophic truck crash, trust Grant Lawson of the law firm for truck safety, board certified, nationally recognized, with millions recovered and relentless advocacy for your justice. Visit truckaccidents.com today. Well, the animals enjoying the nice weather as well. It ended up being a really pleasant weekend across a lot of the Intermountain West as last week's Pacific trough worked its way through, producing a lot of rain and severe weather in the south central and southeastern United States, and bringing a little bit of moisture to the southern Rockies. But another West Coast trough is building and coming down the west coast of British Columbia into the west coast of California. This is a very impressive system, and while it's not going to come through in one piece, it's going to spit out, literally, just like spitting out 3 strong waves across this region. And with these waves coming through, it will be able to kind of shift the trough a little bit more to the east in the days ahead, allowing it to get colder and allowing these waves to maybe be a little bit more productive. We're going to see a really good period of snow in the high country of all of the West. Increasing wind on the plains. In fact, many areas in the plains under high wind watches and advisories as a first wave is going to really whip up the wind quite a bit. So the really nice weather we've enjoyed over the last couple of days from the weekend is going to, well, it's going to go away. The best chance for some of the plains to see some moisture that we've seen in a long time is on the table, especially the northern plains, part of the central plains as well. And there'll be some areas that actually could get measurable precipitation that they haven't seen in a long time. We'll show you where. Will it be the storm of the year? No. The storm of the century? Absolutely not. The storm of the week? Yeah, the storm of the week. We'll call it that. So we'll keep our expectations in check here. But there is some potential for some wintry weather this week. And I haven't had to say this very much this winter, but livestock interest, there's going to be a 2 or 3 day period where you're going to have to prepare for a little bit of winter weather in some areas. We'll also give you a sea surface temperature anomaly update and take a look at what's going on into the Pacific, because it does have ramifications for March, April, May, and into early summer. The animals looking pretty darn good. Certainly this is nothing like the winter of 2023, that's for sure. So that's one benefit of the very mild winter that we've seen so far. And across the region from late last week, when we did have some weather going through, beautiful sunrises and sunsets, of course, across the west and the central plains. Then a nice shot of some fresh snow on the Sierra Nevada. Sierra Nevada going to get walloped here over the next 5 to 6 days or so. And even the Laramie Peak area could actually get some snow, as you'll see here in a moment. Even out there between Orange Junction and Lusk, beautiful shot there of windswept prairie. Boy, there's a mouthful early in the morning. And another nice shot from Belle Fourche, Gillette, and kind of going out across the region, some nice high wispy cirrus clouds ahead of the next developing trough there across the Great Basin. Beautiful shot yesterday morning from Dave Bell along the west side of the Wind River Mountains, with a beautiful sunrise there. And you can see the shadows getting thrown by the mountain peaks as the sun comes up. Now it's kind of around the world with some photos here. Beautiful shot there along the Gulf in Port Arthur, Texas. Then a little trip to the southern hemisphere. Beautiful shot there, the central west Andes in Colombia. And while staying in the southern hemisphere, a nice shot of New Zealand. New Zealand in the middle of summer has got as much snow on their mountains as we do, it seems, from that photo. Satellite image this morning is showing a similar situation to where we were about a week ago. Another trough along the west coast of California. You see the well-formed curl there. And when we look at the water vapor, you can see it here. There's a really good fetch of subtropical air feeding into this region with this upper low coming on in. And this subtropical flow of air is key to why there's going to be a really good amount of snow falling in some of the western mountains. There's just going to be available moisture with these waves as it comes on through. So the little high pressure ridge that gave us a couple of really nice days this weekend is going to get eaten away by this trough. And here it is, Strong jet stream energy is coming in on the backside of this first low. And as we told you, there's kickers. When a low comes in, it kicks the other one out. So this one gets kicked out very rapidly today. This is going to tighten the wind gradient aloft from the southwest to the northeast. This is why we're going to get pretty windy today in many areas out ahead of this. So this is wave number 1. I'm going to label these waves 1, 2, and 3 and kind of break it up, because you kind of have to break up how the weather will evolve this week depending on the number of waves and where you are with this wave. But this first wave, as of around noon today, will be here. And ahead of it, we have got a lot of winter weather advisories. All the pink are winter storm warnings, winter weather advisories for a good chunk of the Great Basin. Even the mountains of Arizona here, the mountains of Utah, up here into Idaho and western areas of Montana, Wyoming's western mountains under winter weather advisories. We have winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories for the mountains of Colorado and southern Wyoming right here. The brown is for wind advisories, high wind watches or warnings. The pink are for red flag warnings for high fire danger. This is for fog. You know, the snow and the ice from earlier this winter melting and adding just a lot of moisture to the atmosphere. Then up along the Canadian border, we've got a long fetch from eastern Montana through North Dakota and Minnesota there of winter weather advisories in effect. So there's a lot of weather being predicted out ahead of these waves. And if we were to focus a little bit more in the region, get ready for the wind. Going to be a very windy day across Wyoming's wind-prone areas of I-25 and I-80. Haven't had to talk about the wind a lot, really. I know we've had some major wind events, but we've had a gap here where the wind really has not been much of a factor. But not for today and tomorrow with this first wave coming through. And then you can see, look at the ski areas of Colorado, the ski country area, all under winter storm watches and advisories for winter storm warning conditions coming on in. So good news for the high country there. And when we take a look at the wave by noon tomorrow, roughly noon tomorrow, this wave is kicked out all the way to the I-25 corridor. So it's a very, very quick mover. And this next wave will come in right behind it. So between today, tomorrow, and Wednesday, by Wednesday, look how fast that system goes. Goes all the way up into Minnesota and Wisconsin and intensifies a bit. So this is why we have winter weather advisories for this part of the country right here with wave number 1. So wave number 1 looks like this through Wednesday morning. You can see along and west of the Continental Divide, there's going to be a nice little slug of moisture. California, the big winter. There's always a gradient. The heaviest moisture is going to be along the coast, and the mountains kind of grab a lot of that moisture. But this is a nice first wave. This is just wave number 1. Here's the snow that develops as that low comes in and re-intensifies right here. You can see the downsloping. The winds coming downhill east of the Continental Divide will give a Chinook effect with this first wave, and basically the wind with this wave number 1 coming on through. So it's west of the divide and the northern areas that will fare the best. So that's wave number 1. Wave number 2 is going to be here in northeastern Colorado by Thursday morning. Now, what this system is showing signs of doing is being further south than wave number 1. It's also taking what we call a negative tilt. It's meaning that when you have the trough axis go from the northwest to the southeast, what ends up happening physically in the atmosphere is you can have a rapid intensification of this storm, albeit a small one, but as it comes over the mountains, it can end up intensifying and being a little bit of a problem. You have to watch these. They're sneaky. And what's sneaky about this one that we haven't really had this winter is it has a tap to Canadian air with it, and I showed you it's got a deep fetch of Pacific moisture. We gotta kind of keep an eye on the weather for Thursday, even east of the mountains. Yes, I haven't said that in a long time. Even east of the mountains, we might have some winter weather on Thursday. I'll show you here why here in a minute, but this negative tilt of this wave is going to be important. Here comes the next wave behind it, so they just keep coming. So wave 1, wave 2, wave 3. Wave 3 comes in behind during the day Friday. You can see how quickly that wave number 2 ejects up into the upper Great Lakes. So here comes the next one. So we've got 3 waves lined up. None of these waves will slow down and become the big Four Corners low. That's just not going to happen in this situation. But we've got a lot of cold air and moisture this time. And so when we add wave 2 and wave 3 rather together, this is something to watch. Take this with a grain of salt. I'm not saying this is going to happen, but the models are fairly in good agreement that there's going to be a potential area right here that may end up with some pretty interesting winter weather on Thursday, meaning wind, snow, and cold, much colder temperature conditions. But this axis of heavier moisture you see across Nebraska could go a little more north. It could go a little more south. So when I show you maps this far out, you have to just take it with a grain of salt. Trend is your friend here. But we see the processes evolving with these 3 waves where this certainly could be a possibility. And you can see there's actually some decent moisture across parts of central Wyoming in this situation as well. So this is wave 2 and wave 3 put together. California, the big winner. Again, the Wasatch, even the Wasatch Front has got some potential for snow here. And then there's going to be another overrunning event up here. And if you put all 3 waves together with snow, we actually do have some snow out here on the plains, even across the lower elevations of Wyoming. Look at these snow totals potentially in the Sierras, and then very impressive snow totals in the Colorado mountains, the Utah mountains, western Wyoming's mountains. So this is what we've been alluding to, a pattern change starting last week that's going to really give the mountain snowpack a boost. Look at these temperatures. This is where the temperature anomalies are going to be today. But by Wednesday, you can see the cold air intruding from western Canada. And by Thursday, that cold air actually sweeps along west of the divide, something we haven't seen a lot. I mean, we've got some sub-zero temperatures that will be occurring across parts of southern Canada and parts of Montana, going to go below 0. We could have single digits in northeastern Wyoming with this pattern, along with some strong winds and snow. Hence, livestock interest as we get into that Wednesday night, Thursday, Friday timeframe, you actually have to prepare for some winter weather conditions. And you look at temperatures on Friday, still quite cold, and that will lead into the beginnings of the weekend. Wanted to give you a quick sea surface temperature update where we are with La Nina and El Nino. Well, La Nina's done. We can put it to bed. In the last 7 days, you see the orange. Sea surface temperatures have changed on the positive. They've gone up. The sea surface temperature anomaly right here going up. So we call this El Nino region 1 and 2. And when we look at the latest sea surface temperature anomaly map, you see this orange right here. So El Nino region 1 and 2 is warm. The only remaining cooler water temperatures are in El Nino region 3 and 4. Why this is important, especially with timing, and I won't go into this too much in detail. We'll talk about this later. But what we're going to see during the course of the rest of February and March is a westward expansion of this orange along the west coast of South America, westward across the Pacific. This changes the dynamic because for the winter season so far, this area has had cooler sea surface temperatures. So the gradient between the cooler air in the higher latitudes to the equator has been weaker. The temperature gradient. If you have a weaker temperature gradient, you're not going to start to form what we call the southerly jet influence that you'll get in an El Nino situation that helps feed subtropical moisture more towards North America. But if the sea surface temperature anomalies continue to change to the positive, then we have more of a temperature gradient between the higher latitudes and the equator, especially right here. This does tend to help. It helps. I'm not saying it's going to happen. It helps the ability of March and April and May storms to be more prevalent and more productive, especially in this part of the country right here. So it's something to watch and something to keep track of. It's an encouraging signal, I guess, is my point here. Instead of the water temperatures getting colder into spring, they're getting warmer. We will be updating the regional travel forecast it's going to become more of a factor this week, especially mid to late week. You'll want to tune in to our YouTube channel. Have yourself a great Monday. We will see you tomorrow.